Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to plunge into something, well, truly unique and thought-provoking.
hmm
It's a philosophical exploration of the human mind, our collective consciousness. Our source is mankiahai.pdf, and it's a deep dive that really challenges so many of our ingrained assumptions about ourselves, about the world.
That's right. And our mission today, really, is to move beyond the sort of typical interpretations.
Mm.
We want to truly uncover some profound insights into the human condition.
Yeah.
And we're guided by this voice, this text, that fearlessly questions, traditional wisdom.
It really does.
And this isn't about giving you answers to just, adopt as belief. It's more like an invitation to a method of self-observation, of
Yeah.
genuine inquiry.
And it sets a striking premise right from the start, maybe even counterintuitive. It says, mentally, you are this world, and this world is you. Now, that might sound a bit strange at first, maybe illogical, even unreal, but we're going to explore what that actually means. Its profound implications for understanding who we are and the society we live in.
Okay.
Let's really dig into this. So the source kicks off with this really powerful observation. Society was created by humans.
Right. Simple statement, but huge implications.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which naturally implies it can be fundamentally transformed. I mean, if we built it, surely we can rebuild it, right?
You'd think so. But what's fascinating here is how it then looks at historical attempts at change. The big revolutions, French, communist, socialist, even various right-wing movements.
All those massive efforts.
They all aim to drastically alter the external structure.
Mhm.
But the consistent outcome? Well, often these efforts just led to new hierarchies, new power structures, new wealth distribution, sometimes even dictatorships.
So different faces, same basic setup.
Essentially, yes.
Yes.
The core human condition, the source argues, remain pretty much the same, as it has for millennia, really.
So if there's been so much effort, generations of effort put into changing the external world, the politics, the economics, why has humanity remained largely the same? Still suffering, still anxious, lonely, uncertain, insecure, fearful, all through history.
It's a heavy question.
It is, and it's one the source really pushes you, the listener, to grapple with.
And this brings us right back to that core assertion. Mentally, you are this world, and this world is you.
Mm.
It really dives deep into this idea that despite all our superficial differences, culture, language, location, money, status, all human beings fundamentally experience similar turmoil, similar suffering.
And my suffering isn't just my suffering.
In a way, no. You're suffering, your neighbor's suffering, someone 10,000 miles away. The source suggests it's a deeply similar human experience at its root.
And it emphasizes this isn't just some, philosophical theory or something to believe in.
No, not at all. It's presented as a fact.
A fact. And this is where it gets really compelling, I think, because it sort of blurs the lines between what's personal and what's global.
Right. It suggests our individual internal states, our
Yeah.
minds, our consciousness, they reflect and are reflected by the global condition. Personal responsibility becomes collective responsibility in a sense.
Okay, so if we are the world and the world is in chaos.
Then the chaos is also within us. That's the
Mhm.
implication. The source then shifts, interestingly, to the challenge of true listening.
Listening. How so?
Well, especially listening when you're confronted with ideas that might seem, alien or illogical to your conditioned mind.
Ah, okay. Things that challenge what we think we know.
Exactly. It states quite directly, actually, that we've lost the art of listening.
Lost the art of listening. Wow. And it issues this powerful call to action, doesn't it? To listen not only to the speaker, but to yourself.
Precisely. It asks you to observe everything happening inside your own mind, your own heart, as you hear these ideas. Your immediate reactions, your agreement, your resistance.
All of it.
All of it. And it requires observing without distorting or interpreting, just observing it, just seeing it as it is, a kind of raw, unfiltered attention.
That sounds difficult.
It is, but it's vital to understand that the process described here, it isn't a lecture. It's not just information being transmitted.
Right.
It's framed as a shared investigation together into the human condition. It's an explicit invitation for you, the listener, to actually join in this journey of self-discovery right now.
Okay, let's delve into how the source describes our current state then. It talks about living in disorder and contradiction.
Yes. That's a key concept.
Where we say one thing and do another, maybe believe one thing and act completely oppositely. Like, maybe you believe in peace, but then you find yourself getting furious in traffic or gossiping.
Exactly that, those everyday contradictions. And the source clarifies that true order isn't about imposing rigid discipline or forcing yourself into habits. It's not about control in that sense.
Not just willpower.
No. It says order arises organically, naturally, from a deep understanding of our internal contradictions. Disorder persists as long as that contradiction exists.
And contradiction is defined as, like, a lack of integrity.
A lack of complete integrity or truthfulness within oneself. Yeah, think about it. How often are we internally divided, wanting two opposite things at once, believing contradictory ideas? That internal conflict, the source says that's the root of disorder.
It's striking, then, to consider how this internal stuff, this contradiction, then manifests outwardly as the divisions we see everywhere, religious, political, social.
Which inevitably lead to conflict.
Right. What stands out to you about how those big global conflicts might just mirror these internal divisions within each of us? It's a challenging thought.
It really is. And genuine order, the source states, arises spontaneously from that deep understanding of the disorder. It doesn't come from fighting the disorder, but from understanding it.
Like a flower.
Exactly. Uses that image. A flower that blooms naturally. And once that true order is established, it says it never withers. It's an effortless state, not a forced one.
Okay, so we've looked at contradiction leading to conflict and disorder. Now, let's shift to something fundamental the source highlights. Life is movement in relationship.
Mm-hmm. We're never isolated.
We're always related to something or someone. Even if we're alone, we're in relationship with ourselves, our thoughts, our environment.
Precisely. And here's where it offers a really crucial insight, one that might challenge your assumptions about your own relationships.
Go on.
It says, our relationships with others are predominantly based on images we've formed of them.
Images, like mental pictures.
Exactly. Pictures shaped by our past experiences, our hopes, our fears, our expectations, our projections. And the source states, quite bluntly, this relationship happens between images, and therefore it is not a relationship. This is a fact.
Wow. So I'm not relating to you. I'm relating to my image of you.
That's what it suggests, yes.
Mm-hmm.
My image of you relates to your image of me. It's a relationship between two constructions, not two living beings directly.
That really makes you stop and think. Can one genuinely live without creating these images? About anything? Can we just deal with facts?
It's a radical question.
The source is very clear. Calling image making is one of human weaknesses. I mean, think about it. You meet someone new. Are you truly seeing them? Or are you instantly slotting them into categories based on their job, their clothes, maybe who they remind you of?
That internal labeling mechanism.
Yeah. And the source says that relationship between images is not a real relationship.
And this process, this image making, then directly links to what it calls the problem of thought.
Ah, thought itself.
Yes, it forces us to ask a really fundamental question. What is thought?
It's fascinating how it discusses thought's dual nature. I mean, thought creates bombs and war machines.
The herbal destruction, yes.
But it also gives us medicine, surgery, incredible communication tech. We're talking right now because of thought.
Absolutely. So how does the source reconcile this? Well, it explains thought essentially as the reaction of memory stored as knowledge, which comes from past experience.
Okay, thought equals memory reacting.
Right. And here's the crucial part. Knowledge is always limited. It has to be. You can never have complete knowledge about anything, can you? There's always more to know.
True.
Therefore, if knowledge is limited and thought is the reaction of knowledge, then thought is always limited, and it always exists under the shadow of ignorance. It's always working with incomplete data.
Always partial.
Always partial. And it then ties it back, reiterating that it is thought that has created these images we were just discussing. The limited thought creates the limited, potentially false image.
Okay, this leads us into another area the deep dive explores. This pervasive human tendency to look for authority, to feel secure.
Yes, psychologically secure.
Whether that's political leaders, religious figures, gurus, intellectual experts. And this is where the source offers a really profound challenge.
It's important, as the source points out, to differentiate this from, say, legal authority, the police, the government, or functional authority, like an expert plumber.
Right. Practical authority.
This is about the psychological authority the mind seeks, for inner security, for answers about life, for comfort. The moment the mind seeks that kind of psychological safety, it will establish authority. It creates it.
In what form?
Priests, revered images, scriptures interpreted by others, self-proclaimed enlightened individuals. anything or anyone it can lean on.
And the source confronts you, the listener, with this radical directive. Be free of all such authority,
All of it.
which means being your own light, not depending on anyone else for understanding life's fundamental questions.
It requires the capacity to stand alone, which, as the source notes, is something most people are so frightened of.
Deeply frightening for many, I imagine. Okay, now let's turn to something intimately related, perhaps. Fear.
Ah, yes. Fear.
One of humanity's deepest, most persistent experiences. Humankind has, well, literally lived with fear for centuries, millennia.
Constantly. And the source poses these critical questions about it. What is fear? How does it arise? What is its nature?
Is it just a product of thought, like the images?
That's exactly the question it probes. Is it generated by our concept of time? Fear of what might happen, future illness, losing a job, death, losing loved ones,
All future-oriented anxieties.
or past-oriented regrets that cast a shadow. The source then offers this truly striking answer about fear's nature. It concludes, thought and time are the components of fear.
Thought and time.
And furthermore, it asserts, thought is time.
Thought is time. How does that work?
It elaborates on mental time, psychological time. It's that continuous movement from the past to the present and from the present to the future. Our minds constantly operate on this track.
Thinking about yesterday, planning for tomorrow.
Exactly. Even hope, it says hope is time because it's projecting desire into the future. And the source argues that if this truth, that fear is the product of this movement of thought through time, is deeply fully understood, not just intellectually, but really seen, then there is no place for fear. It simply can't arise if that mechanism isn't operating.
Wow. Okay. Let's shift gears slightly to how we learn. The source describes conventional human learning. How does it put it? Like a mechanical cycle.
Yes, a mechanical cycle. You accumulate information from experience, you store it as memory, as knowledge, and then you act based on that stored, known framework.
Which seems efficient for, driving a car or learning a skill.
Absolutely necessary for many things. But the source characterizes this process, when applied to our psychological lives, as mechanical and repetitive. The real insight it pushes towards is, are you truly learning in the deep sense, or just replaying old patterns, old knowledge?
So is there a totally different kind of learning? One that isn't just piling up more information, more memory?
That's the question it poses. True learning, as presented in the source, involves something quite different. It's about investigating the boundaries of knowledge, of information, rather than being confined by it.
Going to the edge of what's known.
And perhaps looking beyond it. It requires constantly breaking down patterns, ideals, values, the very structures built by past knowledge, so that the mind remains awake and alert, fresh, not falling into habitual conditioned responses. It's a dynamic state, not just accumulation.
A constant questioning, May.
A constant observation and questioning, yes, keeping the mind pliable, alive.
Now, the source emphasizes a critical distinction. It sounds simple, but it's so easy to overlook. A word is never the thing itself.
Crucial point. It gives examples like the word Sri Lanka is not the actual land, the people, the trees.
Obvious when you put it like that.
But we forget, it elaborates. The symbol is never the reality. The image is not the thing it's an image of. And the danger is that the mind often becomes a slave to words, which are just measurements, labels, symbols.
We live in the description, not the described.
Very much so. And the profound implication for observation, then, is to truly see something as it is. One must try to observe without measurement, without the immediate intervention of words, labels, comparisons.
What does that actually mean in practice? It's like looking at a tree.
Yeah, just looking at the tree without the mind instantly saying oak, old, needs pruning, like the one in my childhood.
Yeah.
Just the raw perception, pure seeing without the mental commentary, the overlay of past knowledge and words.
That sounds like, well, meditation almost.
It's deeply related to the state of attention the source discusses later, yes. Okay, we've explored how thought creates images that can distort relationships. Let's turn to another powerful internal force, desire and pleasure.
Ah, yes. Big motivators.
Huge. The source discusses them covering a whole spectrum, right? From basic physical desires like sex to the more complex pleasures derived from wealth, status, power, recognition, even the pleasure found in religious belief or belonging.
And it highlights something interesting, that the greatest pleasure for a person is often found simply in what they believe, the comfort of belief.
Exactly, the security it seems to offer. But then it makes a very clear differentiation between pleasure and joy.
They're not the same.
Not according to the source. Joy, it says, is something spontaneous, like the feeling you get seeing a truly beautiful sunset. It has no continuity. It just happens,
In the moment.
purely in the moment.
Yeah.
However, the moment the mind records that experience, that was lovely, I want it again, and start seeking to repeat it, to hold on to it.
Then it becomes pleasure.
Then it becomes the pursuit of pleasure. It becomes the continuity of the past, moving through the present to the future. Joy gets transformed into the memory of joy, which is pleasure. And that pursuit, it argues, perpetuates struggle, comparison, and dissatisfaction. Because the repetition is never the same as the original spontaneous event.
Okay, let's unpack this. This raises a truly fascinating question for us, for you listening. Can love exist without pleasure or desire attached to it?
A profound question.
Mhm.
The Source encourages you to honestly self-reflect on that. What is the nature of your own love, your own affections? Are they bound up with pleasure, with wanting something back?
Moving on, our deep dive next confronts, well, the universal and age-old problem of human sorrow.
Yes, suffering, sorrow, in all its forms.
Loss, poverty, injustice, that feeling of just being incomplete somehow, deep ignorance about ourselves and the world.
The Source acknowledges all of this, and then it poses this incredibly bold, direct question. Can sorrow end?
Not just managed, not just coped with, but end.
End completely. And the Source's answer is unequivocally, yes, it can.
How? What's the path?
It describes the path, or rather the state, required to remain with that state of sorrow without any movement of thought,
Stay with the sorrow, without thinking about it.
without escaping it, without seeking comfort from it, without trying to rationalize it, justify it, blame someone for it, analyze its cause, just being completely still with the raw feeling itself.
That sounds incredibly difficult. Our instinct is to run away from pain.
It goes against everything we normally do. But the Source asserts, if one can stay completely still with sorrow, totally attentive to it without the mind interfering, then sorrow completely comes to an end, and there's a totally different beginning. It's an invitation to face it fully, without resistance.
A total transformation through acceptance, almost. Okay. The discussion then moves, naturally perhaps, to death.
An integral part of life, as the Source points out, and the common human fear of it.
Which we often try very hard not to think about.
Exactly. And the Source reveals this key observation. Humans have somehow separated living and dying throughout history. We treat them as opposites, antagonists.
But they're part of the same process.
That's the implication. And the gap we create between them, it identifies that gap as time. Psychological time again. Our fear projects an end into the future. And beliefs like reincarnation, it suggests, are also a search for security, a way to avoid the finality of ending.
It makes you wonder then, is the realization that there is nothing permanent, nothing psychologically permanent to hold on to necessarily depressing? Is that a bad thing?
The Source offers a different perspective. It says that that very seeing, the direct perception of impermanence, is intelligence. And in that intelligence, in that clear seeing of what is, there's actually complete security.
Security in seeing the truth, even if the truth is impermanence.
Precisely. The security isn't in finding something permanent to grasp, but in the intelligence that arises from understanding the nature of reality itself. Now, the Source offers a really striking critique of organized religion.
How does it approach that?
It suggests that often organized religion becomes a deception, lacking genuine reality or depth for the individual. It describes it sometimes as a series of words, quotations, dogmas that are completely disconnected from our actual daily lives.
Our lives, which are often, as it points out, filled with violence, competition, contradiction.
Exactly. The beliefs are one thing, the living is another. And it emphasizes how our minds become mechanically conditioned by these traditions and beliefs, born into a certain religion, taught certain things.
Making it incredibly difficult to break free, to think outside that box.
Extremely difficult. We may label ourselves Buddhist or Christian or Hindu or Muslim or atheist, but fundamentally the Source insists you are a human being like the rest of the world, burdened by the same fundamental struggles, anxieties, sorrows.
The label doesn't change the underlying human condition.
Not at its core. Which reiterates that profound implication we keep coming back to. You are this world, and this world is you.
Understanding that brings an astonishing responsibility, it says.
Yes. Responsibility for our own thoughts, our own actions, because they're not just personal, they contribute to the whole consciousness of mankind.
So what does a true religious mind look like, according to the Source? If it's not about organized belief systems.
It defines it as a mind that is free, completely free from conditioning, from fear, from authority. A mind that has no problems, not in the sense of having no challenges, but no psychological problems, no internal conflict.
And it's seeking something beyond.
Seeking something beyond measurement, beyond time, beyond the limitations of thought itself.
And it offers that caution, doesn't it?
A very important one. Be careful of the man who says, I know. The person claiming final spiritual authority. True inquiry is always open, always learning. This leads us directly into the Source's description of true meditation, which is, again, probably very different from what most people think of as meditation.
Not about techniques or mantras.
Fundamentally different, yes. Not about practice techniques, not about control, certainly not about following any external authority or system. It says true meditation arises spontaneously when there is order in your house, in yourself.
Order meaning that state we talked about earlier, absence of internal conflict, of contradiction.
Exactly. When there's that inner quietness, that lack of measurement and comparison, meditation naturally happens. It isn't something you do, it's a state that is.
So what does this truly mean for us? This radical form of meditation is characterized as the ending of all measurement.
All psychological measurement. And it explains that measurement exists as long as the me, the self, the ego exists, with all its pride, its hurts, its ambitions, its fears.
That whole bundle of identity.
That bundle, which, the Source says, is itself created by thought. Limited thought creating the limited self. The radical conclusion, then, is this. The ending of the me is the beginning of wisdom and meditation.
The ending of the self. That's a powerful statement. How does one even approach such a state? Is it about trying to end the self?
It's more about understanding the self, understanding thought, understanding measurement. That very understanding is the beginning of its dissolution. This state, it leads to a completely silent mind.
Silent. How?
Not as the temporary condition you achieve through effort, like concentrating really hard, but as its natural state when the me, the center of noise and conflict, is absent. And only from this total silence, empty of its entire content, can the mind genuinely respond to thought and utilize thought when needed, without being trapped or limited by it.
So silence isn't the absence of thought, but the absence of the thinker.
In a sense, yes. The absence of the psychological center that distorts perception. It also clarifies the difference between attention and concentration. Concentration, it says, is forced. It creates conflict. The controller trying to control the wandering thought.
Yeah, that struggle.
Whereas attention is holistic. Effortless seeing. Awareness without a center, without judgment. The Source says if you truly understand this fact, this difference, conflict ends completely.
Okay. We've discussed these really profound insights at a, conceptual level, but the speaker didn't just talk about this stuff. He put these principles into action in a very tangible, public way.
That's right. A very significant real-world example.
The Source brings us to this. The dissolution of a large spiritual organization he was deeply associated with, implied to be the Order of the Star. Let's dig into the implications of that act.
It was a huge move, and the Source explains his reasoning. He felt that any organization, even one formed for supposedly noble spiritual goals, could inevitably become a crutch, a weakness, or a bondage.
A limitation.
Yes, crippling individual intelligence, preventing that unique search for that ultimate, unconditioned truth, which for him had to be undertaken alone without intermediaries.
It highlights his refusal to seek followers, right? Or disciples, or even financial gain.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
He famously said, if even 5 people who really listen, who live, who are oriented to truth, genuinely understand, that is sufficient. Quality over quantity, intensely so.
No interest in building a movement.
Quite the opposite. His sole concern, as the Source puts it, was to free human beings totally, unconditionally. And this transformation of individual consciousness, one person at a time through their own seeing, is presented as the only way for any fundamental change in society. Change starts within, radically so.
What an extraordinary journey this deep dive has been. Really challenging our fundamental assumptions about, well, everything. Self, society, existence.
Indeed. It really all circles back to that central metaphor the Source uses, the book of life.
Explain that.
It says the entire story of humanity is in you. You are that book. All the conflict, the sorrow, the beauty, the potential, it's all within your own consciousness. This deep dive really has been a process of perhaps learning how to start truly reading that book for yourself.
Learning to read ourselves. So, a final thought for everyone listening. If, as we've explored today, the path to understanding, to freedom, maybe even to ending sorrow, lies in observing without interpretation, listening without distortion, ending the conditioning of the known, What would it actually mean? What would it look like to approach just one conversation today, or maybe one moment where you feel challenged or upset, with that radical sense of non-interference? That quiet observation we touched upon.
Hmm.
Could pausing just for a second before that immediate rush to judgment or belief or reaction, could that pause open up a new space within you? Perhaps a space of clarity, maybe even true intelligence that actually transcends the usual limitations of our thought and time. Something to explore, perhaps.